Okay, good day everybody. Mike here. It's Moldy Monday. This is number 5. 5 out of the 5 that I had planned on contributing to this series. I might actually do a sixth, kind of a bonus, if you want to call it a bonus video, but I haven't decided on that yet. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about casting the Lee commercial 18 cavity number 4 buckshot mold. And I have to admit, this is a very, very difficult mold to learn with. This is not a mold that I would recommend a beginner start with at all. I mean, there's no harm in trying, of course, and you might have success. However, if you go through the regular progression of, learning to cast kind of like, like I did, casting larger round ball and then shotgun slugs, 2 cavity molds, regular pistol bullets, things like that, rifle bullets, eventually, you might want to try casting buckshot. Now, let me get this box out of the way. Okay, before I forget, first thing first, Lee has traditionally, for the longest time, offered 3 different buckshot molds. Triple-aught 36 caliber buckshot, double-aught 33 caliber buckshot, and then 24 caliber number 4 buckshot. However, I was on their website, and just recently they have started offering a 4th buckshot mold for number 1, which is I think 30 caliber, or it might be 31 caliber, I can't remember. You can check it out on the Lee website if you're interested in buckshot in any way at all. I mean, you can look into that mold because it's a popular size, which a lot of people have had really good success with for hunting. Now the number 4 buckshot mold is kind of a tricky one. It casts a size of buckshot which is too big for small game and too small for most big game. Ideally, number 4 buck, falling right in the middle there, is more of a kind of a medium size game, predator type hunting, coyotes, foxes, maybe things as small as raccoons. Probably not much bigger than coyotes though. And it's in some countries, of course, like the US, number 4 buck would be considered, I think, a prime choice for defense ammo. Now, the thing about buckshot molds is that the cavities are stacked on top of each other. This is an 18 cavity mold, and you can see they're in rows of 3 with a very, very small hole leading to the next cavity all the way down through the mold. And the trick I found with casting this is just to keep going. Don't stop. Don't slow down, It's really important that you have the mold up to the right temperature, which is generally, I think, on the hotter end, as well as your casting, lead. There's no point in casting zinc out of, buckshot out of zinc or anything like that, because buckshot, of course, gets its advantages from the weight of the pellets, so lead is the way to go. But yeah, you have to really keep up the pace on a mold like this. And any kind of distractions at all will throw your whole casting routine out. Now, the reason this is such a frustrating mold and also so rewarding is because for a regular buckshot mold, you know, you cast once, you get 18 pellets. If you get a full, you know, perfect cast, pretty typical 12 gauge load would be a 9 pellet. So for one casting, you're going to end up with, you know, 2 shots basically. Whereas number 4 buck typically loads into shotgun shells anywhere between, say, as few as 25 and as many as 35 pellets per shot. So, you know, if you have culls that are coming out of a mold like this, you know, like, you can't guarantee that you're, as a beginner anyway, you're not going to be able to guarantee that you can get 18 perfect pellets. You know, you might get 10, you might get 15, you might get 5, you know, it depends on your pace and how well practiced you are. You know, it's not really a matter of learning. You've already learned the basics about, you know, getting your temperatures correct and getting your pacing, you know, right, quenching, the distance from the, you know, the nozzle on your casting pot, stuff like that. You've already learned all that. It's just a matter of putting it into practice. Now, what I found with a mold like this is that you're going to start off with, you know, you're going to end up with all kinds of scrappers. You know, these are basically the mold wasn't hot enough or the alloy wasn't hot enough. It just started into the first cavity, and then you know, and then it just froze up. Basically, it just freezes up. So you'll start off with something like that, and then as your practice gets a little better, your rhythm, you're going to end up with ones that are, you know, a little bit better looking, but they're definitely not round by any means at all. These, by the way, are all still shootable for practice ammo. You know, if you're just shooting at pop cans at the range like I do, there's really no issue shooting this kind of stuff. You're not going to get any kind of quality performance out of it, but then as you move along, you know, you're eventually going to start to get, you know, bigger pellets again, a little better than these ones for sure, but still nothing at all like real round proper, you know, buckshot that you really want to end up with. Now eventually you're going to get to the point where you start getting some, you know, some real number 4 buckshot out of the deal, and that's when it starts to, you know, really feel satisfying. Because let's face it, buying buckshot or birdshot of any kind, it's really expensive. You're really going to save money by casting your own buckshot and loading that instead. Now, after this stage, this is basically usable buckshot. It's not perfect either, to be honest. It's very usable though, for sure. You know, I moved along to, you know, eventually I powder coat all my shot, even though, you know, it doesn't really have to be powder coated, but I powder coat them. Now, just a side note, when it comes to powder coating buckshot, doesn't matter what size, number 4s, double-aught, triple-aught, whatever, the timing in the oven is not anything close to regular bullet powder coating. You want to start keeping a really good eye on the flow and the you know, how well the coating is going at about maybe the 8 or 10 minute mark. Once you start getting up past 12, 15, you're going to start melting pellets and you're going to have horrible troubles. So keep that in mind. Now, as a final kind of a side note, you know, you can cast just your regular number 4 buck. By the way, here we'll measure one here for you. Should come out at 24 caliber. Okay, so there's 241, it looks like. If you like experimenting with like small game ammo like I do, let's see, I'm going to find a couple cases here. Oh, there's one. These are number 4 buckshot. Let me get you closer to the camera here. These are number 4 buckshot that I have put through a Lee sizer for 225, and they end up weighing around 20 grains, I think, give or take a little bit. And they're going to end up being loaded into 223 as small game, you know, small game pellets basically. I'm not sure how well they'll perform. I haven't not done the testing yet. I have a feeling they're probably going to do pretty well. You know, at low velocity for small game like rabbits and stuff like that, I'm going to play around with them. Although this mold really, you know, isn't intended for this type of projectile. This is really, you know, what you're after. So it's a matter of don't muck around with your sprues. You know, I know you get large sprues when you're casting buckshot and you kind of tempted to want to throw them in the pot back, you know, right away. I mean, if you can get away with it, go ahead and do that. But what I found, in order to end up with something really satisfying, you know, like a jar full of good usable number 4 buck, is to just keep going, keep going, keep going. Just keep casting, dumping, quenching, casting, dumping, quenching. Just don't worry about the sprues. Don't, you know, keep the pace up, keep the heat on the mold going, keep the lead up to the right temperature, and you'll avoid all these culls. And you'll end up with, you know, good usable number 4 buck. That kind of applies to the bigger buckshot molds as well, I think. But really applies to the number 4. Now, I did not have any success casting any number 4 buckshot the first, and I think maybe even the second time that I tried. It just did not want to work for me. But that's because I had no practice. I was kind of new at casting. I'm still basically new at casting, but when I finally set my mind to it and just decided that I'm going to heat that lead up, I'm going to heat the mold up, get everything ready, and I'm just going to not worry about the sprues, not worry about the culls, just cast and quench, cast and quench, cast and quench, keep going. I mean, this really, to be honest, for me, represents, you know, quite a few hours in front of the casting pot, you know, to get really good, usable number 4 buckshot. And like I said, it's a really kind of a frustrating mold because you have to cast so much of it. 2 of these, you know, to get yourself one loaded round of 12 gauge. And it worked for me if I just kept going, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, and eventually you'll end up with some good usable buckshot, which ultimately is very satisfying to have. So I might have mentioned it earlier in the video, but this is like my number 5 out of 5 that I kind of planned on contributing to this series. I may actually do a bonus, kind of a 6th one. Haven't really decided yet. If I do, it won't really be on a particular mold. It'll be on, I think, molds in general or something like that. I got a few ideas. Anyway, I hope if you decide to try casting, buckshot, that you do give it a try, and it's not really learning, it's more physical practice and time on the mold. Just keep going. Okay, that's it for Moldy Monday on the Lee number 4 Buckshot mold. Have a great day, everybody. Mike out.